So last time I said that even, if you and myself, if we are not belonging to an indigenous nation, we are indigenous to this planet. This planet Earth got us. And she's coming up with her own strategies. And, we have the choice to align ourselves and to do what we can to attune to the earth and listen. Listen, what she has to suggest to us, how we can become part of her immune system. And, listening in this context is a full attending by sensing in the body and with the body as an organ of listening, and allowing our nervous system to perceive where we actually are, that we are actually inside of her. And this is a journey of discovery, a leaving behind of the limiting assumptions of the dying cultural paradigm, by sensing resonance with and through the energy body. That, literally opens up our world into new vistas beyond what we know and beyond, what the cultural paradigm is telling us about mainly consuming, extracting, and using up, dominating, human supremacy and all of that. And it's simply unsustainable, and we know that, but we just don't really know, how to change gear, because the vehicle has such a momentum. But noticing that it needs to change is the first step. And I think that's what brings us all here to these sessions on Wednesday. So it's about an expansion of perception through a more intuitive and poetic vision of the cosmos, of the earth, of life, of what we are doing here. That fulfills the heart, the chitta's need for placing itself in the vast scheme of things, for making meaning, for understanding why we are here, or what we are doing here, what we are supposed to do here. And, because cultural conditioning shapes, of course, what people expect, want, and value in life, and thereby determines how they understand what their place in the universe is, in the cosmos is. And currently, humans understand themselves mostly as insignificant, which produces a desperate attempt for domination and control and exploiting, because the assumption of separability produces fear of disconnection. So there's these very deep yearnings for connectivity, which stem from very early archaic human conditioning and has been, worked into our systems over more than 2 million years. So there are very, very deep-seated yearnings to connect with something vaster than ourselves. Something more than just, getting through the days. And, and if we can connect with that yearning more consciously, that can be the way, how we can open up the horizon of our culture by training this capacity to attune to the earth, by coming back to that capacity which is deeply conditioned into our system, in the body, in the unconscious. And then if we can reconnect with that, that would allow us to be more fully where we really already always are, and can benefit from the guidance with the earth is providing for those who can receive it, who can attune to it. And our indigenous brothers and sisters, they have been able to preserve that connection, but our culture has forgotten it. It's buried underneath a lot of different conditioning, and we can get back to that. We can reconnect to it. We can reactivate it by consciously training ourselves in that way. And that's what I try to offer guidance for that reawakening of this material. And William Blake says, as a human is, so they see. And what we are as like so-called Westerners in this time, there's a lot of impoverishment when it comes to the deep yearnings of the heart or of the soul, because we are really so confined by this very dry and limiting cultural paradigm, which is dying. And we can help, the breaking out by trying on different ways of looking. Ways of looking that energize our hearts and uplift our whole being, so that we can, engage in the path with more aliveness and inspiration. And, noticing beauty and surrounding ourselves with beauty is a way how that can be facilitated. And, according to the medieval philosopher Thomas Aquinas, beauty can be described with 3 qualities. I've looked that up this morning, and those 3 qualities are integrity, harmony, and clarity. So by reflecting on those qualities, we can find a way to connect with beauty which intuitively energizes the whole system. And, I'm just gonna read out a breakdown of these 3 qualities as Thomas Aquinas, describes them. First one is integrity. This refers to the wholeness and completeness of a thing, meaning it has all the necessary parts and is not deficient or impaired. It suggests that a beautiful object is fully realized and lacks nothing essential to its nature. And then the second quality is harmony. Harmony or proportion describes the relationship between the parts of a whole and their relation to the overall structure. It implies a pleasing arrangement and balance where all elements work together harmoniously to create a unified and coherent whole. And the third quality is clarity. This principle refers to the radiance or clarity of a thing's form, making it easily understood and appreciated by the viewer. It's the quality that makes a beautiful object shine and draws the observer in, revealing its essence and meaning. And for example, planet Earth and all living things in it display these 3 qualities. And it can become part of our daily practice to notice beauty as a natural conduit to the sacred mystery we are all part of. And in that way, opening ourselves to the guidance at this time of great transformation. So noticing beauty in the vastness of the planet and its amazing intelligence, which is guiding these unfoldings in such a long time, over 4 billion years. And the beauty in a small little flower or a bird or whatever, comes your way, noticing those three qualities. And in that way, this conditioned assumption of separation starts to give way for a moment and loses its grip over us if it had those moments often enough consciously. That's how we are released, from the grip of the old paradigm. Because, currently we don't really know where we live. We have very kind of surface perception. But we need to add more dimension to that. And we can start doing that, by noticing the cracks in the old paradigm, and beauty can help us to notice the cracks. And then, we can meet at those cracks together and go deeper. So let's find a posture for sitting for about 45 minutes. And sensing the weight of the body as it, meets the surface of the cushion or the chair, the pressure, the sitting bones meeting the surface, the earth element, the structure, the weight. And just, noticing what are you bringing today to this meeting. Is there tiredness or stress or well-being, spaciousness, whatever you're bringing to this sit today, just noticing it. Any burdens you carry, allowing them to drop down into the soil underneath where we are sitting. And allowing the nervous system to guide us. And breathing up the vastness of planet Earth, the stillness, the power of this amazing vast body of life we are part of. Our bodies have emerged out of through our mothers and are kept alive through breathing, eating and drinking every moment. And we are not separate. And sensing into that non-separability with the body and also with the imagination to a certain extent. Some image might arise in your mind, in your heart. And that image, helps us to sense into where we are. So in order to support the sensing, we can also visualize the earth as a radiant being in space. And the late psychologist James Hillman said, to sense deeply, we must imagine. And to imagine accurately, we must sense. So this is, how this equipment works as a human being. If you really want to connect on that deep level, images arise. Or they can also, consciously be visualized. And that helps us to sense into that connectivity. This aliveness, the vibrancy of the energy body, which intuitively understands that it is not separate. And understanding, comes from to stand under, to stand really close to it. So close that we can feel it. The intellect can't really go there, but the intellect can pave the road. By questioning the paradigm. So sensing into the vibrancy, the aliveness, the hum, or the image of the ornaments of the mother, the ringing ornaments of the mother as she moves. We can sense that ringing with the body, in the body. And we can sometimes also hear it, the sound of silence. Which is like a resonance of that unfathomable vastness. which is intelligent and aware. Then as we are, perceiving ourselves as within Earth, as participants of Earth, we notice that this has repercussions, on how we relate. Perceiving ourselves in this different way is the foundation from which to think about a new paradigm. A paradigm of participation and accountability and, growing up and responsibility, rather than this childlike old paradigm about, just wanting and wanting more and not feeling accountable. Basically like a baby, which isn't accountable, but is taken care of. And we are no longer able to sustain that way of living. It's not doable for the planet. It can't sustain it. So we are now, woken up into maturing. It's like a journey of waking up. An initiation. And what become aware of first is this vulnerability and lack of control. Which can stimulate receptivity and surrender to this process. To give up that need for control, which stems from fear, which stems from the assumption of separability in the first place. It's just a misunderstanding. We can just let it go, or at least train ourselves in letting it go. We have the Buddha's teaching, which is all about that. Teachings of emptiness and not self. There's nothing new about that, but now it has to be extended beyond our personal bodies to the body of the earth, to the body of the cosmos itself. We never really thought about that a lot because it wasn't vital. But now it does become vital, it has become vital. So relinquishing these defenses, and through this relinquishment there is then the capacity comes online to connect. And it's maybe a little bit numb, a little bit out of training, but it can systematically be activated again, come online again after having been, forgotten for a few hundred years. But in the depths of the unconscious, it's all still available because it's been deeply, deeply conditioned into our species or in our genus Homo since 2.5 million years. It's a very solid capacity. Which can be called back into operation with the right practices and the right environments, beauty being one. Because we need to activate an intelligence which doesn't just reside in the brain, but it goes throughout the whole body. And it needs resonance in order to come back online, to unfreeze. The resonance of community, the resonance of beauty, the resonance of symbolism, and all kinds of different art forms, sound, and movement. It's a whole body experience. And in that way, we can find our shared communication system with Gaia, with the earth. We can plug in again. And having the Buddha's teaching or any other wisdom teachings, to guide us in how to take care of ourselves. Of our minds and hearts as they are going through this journey of discovery. Of bringing a teaching out of the old paradigm into a new paradigm. So how we can help to accelerate the emergence of this new way of being, and live this instinctive loyalty to the planet more fully. And sense our way in direct communication with Gaia, with the earth. And the sensing and imagining are, like the navigating tools for us on this journey. As we are noticing that, to say that this body ends at the skin is as arbitrary as if we say it ends at the stars. We don't really know where it ends. It doesn't end anywhere, really. And then, the mind needs to give up. And that's exactly what's helpful right now, to step out from the limitations of the thinking mind. And allow that the sensing to take over. With the support of imagination, to help our unconscious knowing to come online and remember our lineage, that we have emerged out of Earth, this long lineage of ancestors, millions of years. And that we actually are all part of a living, intelligent Earth. And we can, see that very clearly with young children. The young children's awe of the natural world and the excitement, the joy, the love, they still, are not yet conditioned out of that, not educated. And, we can change our educational systems. We can make them more realistic, more real. We don't have to lose that. It's not really rational. It was just a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding with lots of quite dangerous repercussions, as we know this now. Took a few hundred years, to accumulate the repercussions, but now, we have no more doubt that it isn't working. It's too narrow. It's too self-centered. Human supremacy is just not really what can work. Because at its deepest level, the psyche remains sympathetically bound to the earth, because the earth has given birth to us. And then as children we still remember, and then we forget it. But it's not lost, it's just forgotten. And now it's the time for it to be remembered and, to become part of our practice, to remember this. Because the times demand it. We no longer live in Iron Age India, where the Buddha lived. There were just a few million people on the planet at that time. But now it's very different. And we can only manage this adjustment by, number one, being fully here and knowing who we are. Being part of that movement of the immune system, which is arising, as the old paradigm is feverish, falling apart. And then opening up space for something new to emerge through us. This is part of the Noble Eightfold Path at this time in history, this work. To connect with what the earth requires of us now. And then connecting, with the heart area, and that the wish, to be of service in these transition times. So with the heart, which can resonate with this vastness. And with the intelligence which is manifesting as earth and many other celestial bodies. But we are this one. We are part of this one for now. And the mystery of this process, that we can perceive the guidance of the earth, because we are inside of her. And our bodies are so much older than what our passports say. They are much older than that. They're like, personal biocomputers which are connected to this much vaster central computer. Which can receive this communication with the body through sensing and with the support of imagination, of using the thinking mind in a way which supports connection or connectivity. And whenever the mind, goes back into thinking about something, contracts around the thought, you're noticing that, just letting go and sensing into the limitless space, the vastness, the aliveness, the vibrancy. The energy body as it seamlessly connects with limitless space. And through this experience, of this non-separability, we get changed on a physical level, which also has its repercussions on a mental level as a training. If we've experienced that consciously often enough, it does change us. I'm gonna share with you a earth prayer, and this prayer comes to us from the United Nations Environmental Sabbath Program. Great Spirit, give us hearts to understand, never to take from creation's beauty more than we give, never to destroy wantonly from the furtherance of greed. No, never to destroy wantonly for the furtherance of greed. Never to deny to give our hands for the building of earth's beauty. Never to take from her what we cannot use. Give us hearts to understand that to destroy earth's music is to create confusion. That to wreck her appearance is to blind us to beauty. That to callously pollute her fragrance is to make a house of stench. That as we care for her, she will care for us. That as we care for her, she will care for us. And to understand that what's happening now is part of her care, to bring us back online with, where we really live. to not just get stuck in an old paradigm, but to come back to directly experience where we really live. And that we are not separate. And that we need to communicate and cooperate and be participants. And let go of these immature assumptions of that we can dominate and control, which is so deeply ingrained in the dying paradigm. And it needs our dedication, to let go of that conditioning. It's gonna take generations to implement that. And it can start with us. It needs to start with us. We are the ones we have been waiting for. I really like that saying. To really, offering ourselves as part of the immune system and doing our bit, depending on where we are and our skills, on our situation, on our talents, but sensing our guidance. So in a moment I'm gonna ring the bell, and then we have, as usual, 15 minutes to share of our experience or what we observe, and maybe if you have any questions, discuss those. Please take your time, slowly